Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
and, and welcome to this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. Just before the show, we were just talking about being off our game.
Yeah.
And
That's live.
forgot to put us in the show. So
we don't have anybody to talk to. Usually have it all set up.
Oh
everything.
my god.
Yeah.
It's one of those weeks. And hopefully we have some nice weather coming up. And so I know we're planning to get out fishing, and hopefully you are too. But I guess with that being said, we have had all kinds of things going on lately. And so we are here this evening to chat a little bit about that, a little bit about how fishing is going, a little bit about all the things. So if you have a fishing report, or if you have anything that you want to share or ask or whatever, throw that in, because we would love to chat about that with you as well.
Yeah.
But I guess first off, we always start with the fishing report. And so I was going to say this past weekend we were at an event, but we did actually get to go fishing too. So where do we start? Maybe with actually the fishing report.
Yeah, we can work backwards, I suppose.
And you say backwards because Sunday was our fishing day.
Yeah.
Saturday was the event.
Yeah.
So start with Sunday?
Yeah.
Fine.
So yeah, Sunday we got out fishing, and it's kind of a weird deal because we went out to a lake that we haven't been on before during this open water
We've been
season.
there many times.
Been there many
times all the time, a million times.
Well, not this year though, is what I was trying to say. Yeah. So yeah, it was just kind of a go guess and see where fish were, and so we went and checked out our first spot, and fish were there.
One of the most productive spots of the day, actually.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird because the water temp has been jumping around so much. We've been really lucky over here. We've had a really nice, comfortable spell of weather as far as temperature goes for June. But that really translated. We had a lot of warm weather early on, and then we've gotten this cool weather, and the water temps have kind of reflected that. And so we were still, low to mid 60s when we got there. It was 63 degrees.
It was a little bit warmer than that, I want to say. But the thing is, we were all across the lake here and there and back. But one of the things that we did notice for sure is that the bluegills, half of them seemed to have spawned and half of them seemed not to have spawned. And so it really got me thinking a lot about, I guess, the lakes and the waterways in general. And I guess this is a silly kind of thought, but, when water temps are warming up, and at what point do they get that key to move into the shallows and go spawn? Like at what temperature? So, I know for different fish, it's different, right? But the thing about it is it was half those bluegills had not gotten that signal, is what I'm trying to say. And so it was really interesting. I don't know if those fish had just stayed deep, if they had never moved in at all. Maybe some of them had moved in and moved back out. But like you said, I think it is a symptom of those water temps going up and going down. The other thing that we were noticing is that, we found all kinds of fish together this past weekend, like all in the same spot. So it was getting close to some of those summer patterns, but it was a true post-spawn pattern. And so when we're talking about the bluegills that did and didn't spawn, that was interesting because they're in the places where they would otherwise be post-spawn, right? And they were eating, they were on the chew, just like post-spawn, but they were thick, they were fat. Some of them definitely had eggs. And so to kind of tease through all of that was interesting. One of the things that we were doing is using, I guess, all kinds of different profiles. And we were getting bites from crappies, from bluegills, from walleyes. To start with, I would say our walleyes were on the smaller end, right? And the smaller walleyes were kind of with the panfish. And that was a really interesting trend because we were really there for the panfish. And so to get an occasional small walleye, that's fun. You just didn't expect that. It's silly, right? Whatever. But what we were noticing is that there were other fish. So I'll say this. So we were kind of out deeper. We were kind of by some big cribs, some big structure. And I won't say it's too deep. It was 14 feet of water, right? So a little bit deeper than maybe what you'd think, but kind of on the shallow end for a crib anyways. And so we were out there and we were seeing on the live scope these marks that were going through. They were swimming kind of the perimeter of the area, and it's easy to say, oh, that must be walleye. But at one point we were seeing these fish come up and almost right next to the crib, and I don't know, almost like they were attacking a bait ball. Like these fish were very active. It was a very interesting moment. And so we were throwing some bigger baits down, and that is actually how we were catching some of those bigger fish. So that was really fun to see the way that those walleye were reacting. So often, especially when we're talking about moving towards summer patterns, people get locked into that mindset that walleyes are going to be deep, that they're going to be on the bottom, and that you have to like Lindy rig for them or something. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, right? That's not 100% of the time, but this was a perfect case where we had these fish eating mid-water column in not very deep water. And so if we had been, targeting that bottom of the water, we would have totally missed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And I really think that if we had been targeting walleyes at all, I think we probably wouldn't have gotten as many bites as we did, because when you said, we threw a bigger bait down there, we threw a bigger panfish bait. We didn't necessarily throw.
I threw like a big bucktail.
Well, that's true. You did end up dropping a big bucktail down, and you did get one to hit that.
It was awesome. It didn't even hit the bottom. That fish came out of the crib and crushed it.
But on the other side of that, you had a bluegill bait on, and you caught like a 2.5 pound smallmouth. And so like True. It was kind of all over the place. But it, like Emily said, there was all these fish hanging out together, kind of in different periods of their spawning activity. And so I just think that we saw a lot of the lake flies had hatched on that lake, and so there was a lot of that going on. So and they were the big, the people down in Winnebago know what I'm talking about, the big lake flies. So those were floating around on the surface. They had just hatched, and I think the fish were going around eating that for the most part. And so we were pretty lucky that must have just happened, because those fish weren't completely full yet, but there was fish cruising all over the place.
But that was a really great thing, because when we talk about match the hatch, spring is one of the easiest times to do that, because you can look around and visually see whether it's bugs that are swimming or floating in the water. And in this case, they were literally floating. Was it the actual bugs, or is it like the shells of the hatch?
No, it was the bugs. They had died.
Okay, yeah. So they were literally floating like on the top and, well, I guess through the middle of the water column, so we could see them there. But again, look at in the air, what is hatching, because those dragonflies that we all love to see because they chase off the black flies, right? Those dragonflies started as all little, and sometimes not even super little. I go like this, but sometimes, they're like this, right? But that's the thing is, those dragonflies, they hatch from those bugs that are swimming in the water, right? And so we're talking about just being barely post-spawn. And so those eggs that were laid and fertilized and just barely hatched, those fish in some cases are like this big, and ever growing, right? And so as we get closer to the summer pattern and certainly into fall, that's why those minnow presentations can be so super effective. But in this case, those minnows are still super, super teeny tiny. Not all of them, but many of them. And so in this case, with all these bugs that Easy Forage going by, that's all we had to do is literally match that hatch. And we just used a brown bug type plastic, and we actually had some our Pro Tour baits was a very close match. I would say that the Euro tackle was a little bit more of a closer match, but anything that was a bug shape in a very natural brown, I left that on all day. Once you find the right bait, I don't know, sometimes it's fun to switch it up, and in this case I didn't even.
Well, and so to contrast that, I switched up my jig head color a little bit just to see if I could get some more bites on that. And it seemed like, the traditional gold was the best. And that's, for us, that's indicative of that summer pattern coming on, right? That gold starts to be pretty much the standard. We don't really deviate from that a whole bunch. But I use pink all day. You mentioned you threw down a hair jig. It was pink and white. You just happened to see a fish, throw it down, and it crushed it. But I was using a pink sparkly bait, and that's what I was using all day. And it was just amazing how the color to me didn't seem to be more the key for the plastics, but the size. You were throwing a very similar size to what I was
totally
throwing.
Against our match the hatch theory that we just talked about. So now we're just confusing people. I'm kidding. No.
I think the size is important, because match the hatch. I guess that's when I think about that. It's more about size than color. And maybe I was just catching fish with a different attitude, right? Because pink is one of those colors that we think of as a reactionary color, right? So that's something that maybe I was just hitting. You were hitting a lot more of the active fish, the active hunters of those insects, and I was just getting the ones that were like annoyed by my bait, right?
It's funny to me that you think of pink as like a reaction bait, because I think it depends so much on the clarity of the water.
Well,
and if you have any stain in that water, if you have any color in that water, then that pink and instantly turns, I don't know, natural brown. It turns, I don't know. I mean, because here's the deal. We're not talking hot pink. We're not talking bubblegum pink or Barbie pink. We are talking like a fairly clear, glittery pink, like a very glittery pink, right? I don't know how else to describe that. Clear glitter. You can imagine that. It's very saturated with glitter, right? And so that's where it gets that pink color. And so again, when you put that in the water, it has that flash. And I think it's just, I mean, it's not red, right? But it just has that eye catch. Maybe that's the reaction that you're talking about. But that natural color, I just think that's part of.
Yeah,
it changes. I don't know. It changes.
That's why talking fishing is awesome, because you have two separate mindsets, and sometimes, even though Emily and I fish together a lot, we learn a lot from each other when we just sit down and
apparently go about it totally different.
That's okay. That's how we like it.
I'm going to throw something out there, and I guess this is a general question for people at home, and I don't mean to stir the pot, right? I'm not trying to be like that, but I will say, when we talk about plastics and how we go about things, we had walked into a Sportsman's Warehouse in Wausau the other, I don't know, like a week ago, and you know what I saw is there's all kinds of great bait options, all kinds of cool things to look at, and it was a big store, to be honest, but I did notice that there was an end cap that had those new Berkley, the bleeding, whatever they're called, baits. People know what I'm talking about. They like release the scent. We've all seen the videos. Here's what I noticed is they come in this beautiful cardboard box. Like, you feel like you're buying expensive. Like something like, ooh. Okay, but it's 5 soft plastics for like $15. At least that's what it was priced in our store when I saw it. And I'm just really, I guess, as far as we're talking soft plastics, and we don't go through all that many soft plastics in a day, but I think I would go through maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe all 5 of them, and it depends on the day. So I'm looking for people's opinions on that, because one of the things that we always talk about is soft plastics. That's always been like an easy, cheap. You don't have to keep live bait, and so I feel like this is starting to kind of bend that road of soft plastics, is, with all that added technology. I'm just interested in people's thoughts. If you ran out, if you're buying them, if they're working. I'm not looking to like support or knock them. I'm just truly interested in people's opinions, because I haven't tried them yet. But I guess the reason I kind of think about that is because do I feel like I need that bleeding technology? I don't know. We still catch fish, but it was just really interesting to me to see that.
The funny part about that is that a good bait catches an angler, and a great bait catches both anglers and fish. And so I think that absolutely. I think it does catch fish, but I think the thing that catches anglers is being able to, when they have that clear tank showing the, whatever scent and dye that comes off of the bait, and it gives you this feeling, right? It just is like, oh, that's something. But like, when you go out to practice it, you're not going to see that. You're casting it, you're dropping it in the water. A lot of times you can't see your bait like a foot under the water, so you don't.
But we talk every week about confidence baits, though. And so
that's that feeling.
Confidence is gonna be everything, because you're gonna fish longer, you're gonna fish, I don't know, jig better, all the things. And so if that is what gives you confidence, I don't know, maybe it's worth it. But
I guess I don't know. I think we do pretty well with what we have. I don't feel like, well, they didn't really have any crappie baits in there either, so
that's actually a good point. I was only looking at like bass size baits.
They don't ever give any of us panfish stuff any any cool stuff like
Yeah,
that.
there were no aisles there
No.
full of bags of plastics and options and colors and glitters. Yeah, no options and different tail styles and sizes
Yeah.
and shapes. No, none of that. But I mean, I think that is actually you're making a great point because sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed. And one thing I found myself doing this year is actually trying out some different presentations than I have in the past.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, this past weekend, I had a bucktail tied on, and that well, it wasn't actually tied on, but those fish were going crazy and it was sitting on the deck. And so I did tie it on, right? But I think so often I get stuck in that mindset. Oh, early walleye or whatever. Why would I think that? I don't know. That's how I use bucktails. And so for me, I don't know, a little bit novel, sounds dumb. It worked. It was great, right? But it opens your mind to all these other things. And so I've been using actually a lot of spinners because, again, when we're talking about these baits, honestly, even I get sick of replacing my soft plastic once in a
Yeah.
while, and I can't keep live bait alive, right? That's what we were talking about. So the nice thing about, I've been using all kinds of different MEP spinners, and some of the they sell streamers that look like little minnows.
They're
actually
actually
really cute.
pretty,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And so it's been really kind of fun to just always have that ready, not have to put a bait on, not have to choose a color, right? And so when we're talking that match the hatch, and as we get ever closer to those minnows that we're matching, that's going to be a really fun thing. The other thing that I'm noticing is the flash in that bait. That's really great for as we're trolling around. But like we're talking about that confidence bait to use those the end line tackle that you think is going to work to try something new. Sometimes you really have to give it a go. And so I don't know. I guess it hasn't been that much of a struggle, but I have a lot of other things in my tackle box that maybe I should start throwing on.
Yeah, you've inspired me a little bit just to, switch stuff up more because it's like you said, like there's a thing about confidence, you have that confidence bait, but then, um, when especially when you go out to when we're going out to our places that we frequent and it's like, oh, if I put this on, I'm probably going to have a decent day, at least catch a couple, and then I can like parse it out from there and just like dial in the bite, right? And that's a fun aspect. But I think that when you challenge yourself, put yourself out of your element, use something that maybe is non-traditional in the area that you're fishing or is just unique to you, just something different, and just try and challenge yourself and see if you can catch fish with different stuff in different situations. I think that brings a whole new dimension it livens the fishing up a little bit, in my opinion. Like, as long as you're still catching a fish here and there, or if you're able to switch back to whatever bait's working, catch a couple and be like, okay, there's fish there still, or whatever, they're still biting, I can go back and try something else. That's kind of nice.
The other thing that I think we've mentioned a few times this year, but I guess is worth mentioning again, is, in years past, we've really kind of done some pretty small baits, used some really small presentations. And this year, and I think the spinners is part of that for me, and trying new things, is I've been upsizing those baits and using kind of an ever larger profile. And sometimes you're always like, oh, bigger bait, bigger fish, right? Or sometimes I see other people catching good fish. I'm like, oh, they must be using a bigger bait. Or I don't know. Sometimes it's easy to think that, but actually what I've learned most of all is I'm catching honestly a lot of the same size on the top end, but I'm shocked at some of these small fish how big of a bait they're willing or able to eat. And so you always see online on Facebook that there's always like a picture of like the tiniest little bluegill and it's like caught on some giant hook. Like, how did they even get that? I don't know, but it's been not that dramatic, right? But a lot of that because there's, again, I don't know, but it just surprised me all these small fish that are eating these giant baits. So it's like maybe I should keep upsizing. Maybe I just haven't found the top end. Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I never even considered that until I talked through it. In that moment you were there with me, so thank you.
I've been, I have a bunch of different bags of plastics, right? And so I have them sorted out into different profiles. And all year long, I carry around my swim bait paddle tail bag with me, and I don't really use it until about now. Like when July hits and we start getting in July, August, September is when I start putting that on and throwing that out. Before that is a lot of twisters. So I'm eager to get those back out because, you know, I'll throw a 3.5-inch swim bait on 4-inch swim bait sometimes, you know, because some, like you said, it's until you find the top floor of what they're going to eat, like you'll find it because you can put the same color on and just keep bumping it up until you stop catching fish, you know. So
all of a sudden here I am trying a musky bait for big crappies. I'm kidding.
But you know, so yeah, I'm excited for that. But there's I've been doing a lot more, like you said, you're using a lot more spinners. I've been switching over to hard baits a lot more. And that's been really fun using the jerk baits. And just, you know, trying out new stuff.
You know, I guess the other thing that I should give a shout out to is, you know, we're talking about all these different baits, trying new things. And there's actually something that stayed super consistent. And that is our rod, reel, and line setup. And so the fun thing about this is that when we're talking about this different end line tackle, it is so much different, just kind of fun, swapping around, switching around, all this different stuff. And are you turning off our logo? Because who I was going to talk about is shout out. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Shout out to Fins.
Yep.
Because that's what's been on both of our rods all year long.
Well, yeah, for almost 2 years, 2.5 years now. It's been quite a while. I switched a lot of my rods over to the new 2-pound, and I've been really liking it. I've had more problems with my 6 and 8-pound leader material than I have my 2-pound fins. So if that's a testament to anything else, I don't know if my leader material is just getting old and I just need to suck it up and buy some new stuff.
That's not Fins.
That's not Fins. That's, I don't even know. Half a dozen. Yeah. I have Trilene, I have Sunline, I have all kinds of different stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, that's been really great. But you prefer to use the 4-pound.
Because you know why? Is because honestly, okay, here's the deal. I have found, and this is an opinion thing. So if you love 2-pound line, like please keep loving 2-pound line. This is again an opinion. So yeah, and you do. Yeah, and I think that's great. But I just find that at this point in fishing line technology, and maybe I shouldn't be that vague, at least in the fins technology, is that, you know, because we talk about 4-pound braid, but it has an ever smaller diameter, right? And so when you're doing all that you're doing, when you're fishing, when you're throwing out these presentations, and what did we talk about earlier in the show is we were targeting panfish around cribs and catching like walleyes and smallies. Yep. And see, that's exactly the thing is it's like, it's not that I can't catch a smallie on a 2-pound test, but I do feel more comfortable on 4-pound, you know? And so, I mean, I think that's the thing is I haven't found the top end for my bait size, right? But I do think I found like a comfort level for line as far as fighting fish, right? And so when you can, because there's a lot that goes into this, right? And so you got to, first of all, trust your rod, right? You have to have the right type of rod, the right power in order to be, you know, your type of application, right? And then you have to have a reel with a drag system that is set appropriately, right? When you're catching big fish, right? That's what you have to put together. And then you have to have a line that you truly can depend on is what I mean, right? And because when you're out there and you can just catch like, little panfish all day long and have a fish fry, and that's great, right? But when you can catch a monster smallie in between that on the same tackle, on the same line, and trust that you can reel it in, that just is kind of the cherry on top for the day. And so I guess that's what I found in this instance is, you know, just dialed in kind of what works. And so in this instance, it is funny that we are using different, but it's worked out.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, it works out fine. I think.
Oh, and for big fish, have a net.
Yeah, well, and I think it really comes down to a little bit of style too. You mentioned a lot of the hardware, but for a lack of a better term, the software of fishing, right? Your style on how you do things. I'm not normally, if I have a lot of like slack line, if it's windy or something, I tend to try and set the hook a little harder just because there's a lot of line out there. But
Sometimes Josh sets the hook like it's his job.
Yeah.
I know we all do that, but I
Yeah,
do laugh at him.
I do.
Laugh at him. That's why I laugh.
But I would say the majority of the time that's not the case though. And it's I have a, you know, more moderate hook set. And I feel like my reeling in a fish is a little bit more, well, finesse, you know, because I'm running 2 pound and you are more like a winch on the front of a tank.
No, it's so mean.
It's not mean. No, it's a style thing.
You can't.
There's plenty of people that water ski fish all the time. Why are you looking at me like that? It's just a thing. We want some, like, I just happen to reel them in a little bit slower, but I'm like trying to grab a net. I'm trying to like put the thing in. I think it's just something. It's just something
you
from.
don't want to rip their face off. That's the thing.
No,
you have to be
true.
like.
No, it's true.
Somewhat careful.
You do have to be careful. I mean, and we're discussing the difference between 2 and 4. Like she's using like a cable, and I'm using like. It's not. There's not even that big of a difference.
Oh
honestly.
my gosh.
No.
Anyways, so one of the things that we found this past weekend is that we were talking about all this stuff because we were at the St. Croix Appreciation event. And so even though we were mentioning earlier in the show that we use our JT rods and we love those, but it was a really fun event. You were there with Eurotackle. Actually, I was there with Onyx. Actually, Meps and Mr. Twister were there, so that was really fun. Saw some friends there. But there was actually, the one thing I like about that event is it's a very, dare I say, welcoming event. And so what I mean by that is sometimes the big expos draw the crowds of people who like know a lot about fishing, or maybe they do tournaments, or I don't know. You can't over assume that, right? But what I'm saying is that in Little Park Falls, Wisconsin, I mean, you get a huge range of people, and there's honestly a big attendance. It's a really well attended event, but you get a lot of the local Wisconsin people who maybe don't normally go to these events. And we had a lot of really great questions. And in a lot of instances, a lot of really great like beginner questions, or you know, like getting started. We met some people who just moved here from the ocean and are just moving from ocean fishing, saltwater fishing into freshwater fishing. And so that's been kind of the adventure. And it was a really fun event to be able to kind of revisit a lot of these things that we're talking about in this show. You know, the tackle that we're using, exploring new things, trying new things, building that confidence, having line that you can depend on. These were the conversations that we were having there. And it honestly made for a really fun day.
Yeah, it was. It's always a fun little event. And like you said, I think part of it is just being able to see people that are local to us. You know, Park Falls is only a couple hours away. And, you know, we've been there a few times now, helping with various booths. And so not with St. Croix, but for some of the booths, because it technically it's not vendors there, right? It's St. Croix that has their in-store product, and then they bring in
company reps.
They bring in company reps, and so we're there helping some companies. But we have, you know, there was people there that we've seen in previous years that make it an annual trip. And like you said, there's other people that are new that come in and talk. There's always the fun thing is it's a Father's Day event. It's always the weekend of Father's Day, it seems like. So there's always a bunch of kids running around like picking out lures, and it's like you either hear like, oh, go grab a lure, or you hear, no, put that back. And it's just kind of, you know, it's kind of funny that way. So yeah, it's a fun event. We get to see a lot of our local friends that, you know, you'd think that some of these people are only like an hour or 2 hours away. You know, they live around the area and you'd see them more, but we don't really get to see each other all that often outside of events. So it's good to say hi to those people too.
And I guess with that, we saw a lot of rods walk out the door. We saw a lot of tackle walk out the door. And quite frankly, there was a lot of good deals. So we were mentioning the shows and expos before, and those are still awesome and still go to them. But people who are really looking for deals, I think that was the place to be this past weekend. So
it always makes me just like so excited for the Wisconsin Expo, the Wisconsin Fishing Expo, the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo, both of them. We're half the year away now.
That's actually, as the heat comes this coming weekend, and then we're going to just keep thinking about the Ice Expo. Yeah, That's gonna be fun. I am actually already. I'm ready for that.
I'm
already
ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And as far as gosh, other things this past weekend, we said that we'd walk backwards through the weekend.
Yep.
I guess the only other thing I have to add about that event is, we talked about all the new people and the friends, but also really well attended for speakers. There was a lot of really great people there, some really great tournament anglers and just otherwise pros in the field, and always free food. So that's
Yeah.
always a really fun thing.
I do like grabbing a brat.
Yeah, as far as other than that, I think we are looking forward to this coming weekend.
Well, what did we do Friday?
Were we fishing?
No. What did we do last Friday? You were at work.
Oh, we did do a fish fry, yeah. But people all know about this, so we posted. Yeah, Josh did. I work at MEPS, so a lot of people don't know that. And so I was working last Friday, and so Josh had off, and so he was able to actually. We were posting about the. Oh, that's funny. This is a pen. Look at this green pen. It's green screened out. That's funny. Sorry, squirrel. But we had posted, a few weeks ago about the white bass run that was going on. And we're not normally the kind of people that keep fish, which is not a judgment thing. It's just like we don't normally have fish frozen in our freezer.
Don't feel
ever.
like
We just
cleaning
never,
fish.
But we got caught up in the white bass run, and I mean, when you catch literally that many fish, I mean, it's like, how do you not keep a few of them? So we did, and you always hear about the key to white bass is that you have to clean them right? And so some people swear they're not good, but they were really great. And nobody tried to trick anybody. We didn't trick my coworkers. We told them off the bat it was white bass, and everybody I think was a little bit nervous. And you know what happened is they all loved it.
Yeah.
Actually, enough that I was still hearing about it on Monday. So hey.
I'm going to caveat the not tricking anybody. And Emily did not tell any of her coworkers that we put almost all the fish in Frank's Red Hot. And she works with a bunch of old ladies.
That's not even a diss. That's like truly true. And
they're awesome.
It's really
like
true.
The amount of lures that those ladies have, like, it's mind-boggling.
It's honestly,
yeah.
But the thing about it, I didn't lie.
No, you just
the thing about
omitted
let's stop. So here's the deal. So when we make fish fry, my favorite way to go about this, I'm sure people have heard this before, and I'm sure we posted, but here's the info, right?
Well, we got it
the
from
short
Razor.
Yeah, actually,
Nick
that's a good
Cox.
point. Shout out to Nick, and that's that guy. It's been too long. But what I will say is, so what we do is you take the fillets, you clean them all up, and then they just go right into a gallon-sized baggie. And in that baggie, we have just Frank's Red Hot sauce, just nothing else. There's nothing special to this. There's no recipes. I'm not going to measure anything, right? So you take that Red Hot and you just enough to cover your fillets a little bit, right? Whatever's in there, just get everything marinating in there. And so then you go and you take out your breadcrumbs, you take out your other things. In this case, we use the Chef Roberts seasoning. And so that was really great. And so you just, get your oil hot, you take it out of the Frank's right into the breading, cook it right up, bing, bang, boom. You don't need egg washes. You don't need things. You don't need stuff. But the thing about it, the Frank's is not spicy. It is not spicy. So you would think, oh, it's hot sauce. I don't know what happens to it. It cooks. It's the breading. It's the fish. I don't know what sucks up the spicy. There's no spicy. It just comes out to be really well seasoned, good fish. That's it. I'm picky and it comes out great. I'll tell you that. Right. And so I guess I just, you're calling me out that I tricked people.
No, I didn't.
Know, I mean,
I didn't say you tricked them. I just said that you omitted it. But then everybody was so surprised. They loved it.
Nobody thought it was spicy.
No.
Plus, what you is you dunk it in tartar sauce.
Yeah, I don't, but
I do.
I know.
And lemon, a little bit of squeeze of lemon.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, I'm ready for another fish fry, I guess. That's how this works.
Yeah. But you mentioned Chef Roberts. That breading's been super awesome. Even if you don't, so like Emily said, a lot of times we'll put the Frank's in there and then it gives it a little bit of wetness that you can, put your breading on with. And so one of my favorites is just, if I'm out of the Chef Roberts, I'll put some flour, salt and pepper, and then I'll do the Frank's, put it in the flour, put it back in the Frank's, put some panko on it, and that makes it really crispy. and it's pretty easy. There's not a whole lot more seasonings that you need than that. But the Chef Roberts is super easy because you don't even need to put it in anything. You just thaw your fish out, put that breading on there, and it comes out crispy and delicious, and it's awesome. So like it's something we keep in like our travel, like our camping stuff.
We always run to them at the expos. That's where we get this in the first place.
That's true. That's true.
So
that's it. That's I guess that was all. Is that a catch up from? Then we're back to Kara, right?
Oh yeah, because when we talked last weekend, that was exciting. But because I guess there was a week in between that. So we were fishing and all that good stuff. But we've been posting, and people I think have seen that. So I guess going forward to this weekend, I don't know if we talked at all about where we're going to fish, and that's okay. But I know that fish are really settling into that summer pattern. I do know that I have to rearrange my tackle box because it's a disaster and things are everywhere.
I just had to do that too.
Yeah, it's like halfway through the season. Oh gosh, is it?
Yeah.
I guess almost.
Almost.
Not quite. Almost.
Not
I'm pushing it. But that's the thing is we get to this point and I just have tackle everywhere. So I'm going to take these moments and hopefully rearrange some of that. And after this, we have quite a bit of heat that's going to be settling in our area. So again, I think maybe some dock fishing is going to be in our way. Those panfish love to hide in those shadowy areas. Maybe under those like I guess diving docks, even those platforms that are let a little bit deeper, those cribs. This always makes me think of, the Chippewa flowage,
the bog.
Yeah, bog fishing.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if we're going to get to do any of that this year. We'll see. But lots of fun summer adventures to come. And I know that this heat is going to keep pushing fish into those summer patterns that we ever expect. And I think one of the things that we haven't done much this year yet is trolling. So trolling for panfish, really easy, just with our little jig and twisty tail. And to be honest, in some cases, we were waiting for weed lines to set up, but I know by this point that they are. Yeah, before they were growing, but they weren't quite all the way there yet, right? But now they will be. And so finding that and finding those panfish, I think that's going to be a whole bunch of fun coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you're fishing where you're at, let us know how that's going or what your water temps are like or what is working for you, because maybe I'll try it out too. I'm kidding, maybe. But either way, we will be able to come back here next week. We'll tell you what's working for us. We'll tell you how it's going. And other than that, I guess next week is a holiday. Not quite yet. Not quite.
We have Matt Crawford on next week on the 2nd. So we'll be chatting with him before the 4th.
And he's always got tons of fun things going on. I can't wait to ask him. He catches all kinds of good bluegills and pumpkin seeds. Maybe a few weeks back, he'll have to scroll through his posts, but man, those are awesome fish. So I know we'll talk a little bit about that and all kinds of other things. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, should be fun.
Cool. Okay, so with that, I think that's mostly what we got tonight. So thanks so much for being here this evening and joining us. And I guess we'll see everyone on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.